generic academic skills during university educations. Dear Auli, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you, Damir, very much. And thank you all for inviting me to this very interesting webinar. And thank you, Urban, for your very interesting and inspiring presentation related to the multidisciplinary program that you are running at your university. My topic, entitled Student Learning of Generic Academic Skills During University Education, actually is linked in an interesting way to the developments that Urban presented going on at the University of Ljubljana. And maybe you notice and identify the similar challenges or questions that you face in your universities in terms of this learning of this kind of skills as a part of university education. This is, here you can see briefly my structure of my presentation. First, I talk a little bit about the importance of student learning of generic academic and domain-specific knowledge and skills. Then why this requires learning-focused and research-based approach. What kind of developments we have done at the University of Helsinki in order to gain these aims, and how we think that this needs to be directed, and how we need to use the feedback and evidence when we develop our programs towards these aims. And I think that you all have noticed the recent interest and emphasis on student learning and mastery of generic academic skills during higher education. This has been emphasized among researchers investigating higher education learning and teaching, and these topics, the practitioners. And I think that here it is how it links to Urban's presentation when promoting multidisciplinary program at your university, and also employers. They have emphasized this kind of importance of generic skills quite a lot. In research, we know that students need these kind of skills when they learn both the discipline-specific things and practical skills in higher education. They also need these skills from the viewpoint of their employability after the higher education studies, and they also need these in their working life. So my point is that, of course, domain-specific knowledge and skills are important, but in order to be able to work as an academic in current working life, you need both. And we all are quite aware of the changes in working life and academic careers, which require us to make these changes in how we educate a young generation currently at our universities. And it requires environmental changes in our learning environment and the pedagogies that we utilize. And we know, based on practical experience and our research, that higher education institutions lack research-based teaching methods, technologies, and pedagogical processes through which we can embed student learning of generic skills to all our instruction of academic subjects. And also tools to assess learning of this kind of generic skills are missing. And my point is that there is a serious area of development both in our curricula and in the ways how our teachers teach. Based on research and based on my practical experience from my university, my understanding is that academics and higher education institutions agree quite a lot the importance of domain-specific learning of domain-specific knowledge and skills, as it described on the left side of this slide, so that we quite easily agree that, of course, our students need deep understanding of the domain. They need also understanding of other disciplines and how other disciplines are related to their own. They need to manage research methods and methodologies in their own field. They need to have researcher expertise and practical expertise. And they also need to have understanding of the importance and relevance of their own domain in the society. And also in principle, many of academics agree that the skills that I described on the right-hand side of the slides are important, like critical thinking, problem solving, self-regulation skills, communication and collaboration, entrepreneurial skills, use of digital technologies, and adaptivity and flexibility, whatever they face during their studies and in working life. But in practice, it is actually, when we look at the curricula and look how we teach, it is actually quite challenging for us as teachers in higher education to promote systematically learning of these generic skills in everyday pedagogical practices. We also know that we need to enhance learning of this kind of generic skills as part of our domain-specific courses, and we know based on research that there are a variety of pedagogical practices that enhance student learning of this kind of generic skills, like using authentic problems as a part of our domain-specific teaching, utilizing problem-based collaborative project work, multidisciplinary programs and collaborations, as Urban emphasized in his presentation, varied use of modern technology, long-term collaborative processes, continuous assessment and feedback during the work processes, and varied feedback from peers and collaborators. But these are actually quite challenging to embed to the domain-specific courses. This is our experience in our university. So how to integrate this kind of practices to domain-specific courses is a challenge for our teachers. And we quite heavily promote learning-focused and deep approach and meaningful learning in our university, and try to educate our teachers to have understanding that both the domain-specific knowledge, but this kind of generic skills are important when we try to promote students' understanding and learning, and when they use their own domain and when they learn their own domain. And what I want to emphasize is that our teaching is heavily based on scientific research. So I am not saying that we forget this and focus only on learning of generic skills, but they need to be intertwined. And we educate our higher teachers in our university to understand how student learning takes place, what is it and how it happens, and what kind of pedagogies are useful for student learning. And we have many really expert teachers who understand this and who can promote both learning of domain-specific knowledge and generic skills in their courses and in their programs. And we had quite a big change or renewal of all our degree programs at University of Helsinki in 2016. And we have done it for a while now. And here on this slide, you can see the main emphasis that we tried to promote then. So learning-focused approach is a key for all curricula at our university, research-based teaching and learning, expertise for future careers, so that we really take into account the needs of the working life. We really focus on and take seriously how our students get employed after they graduate from our university. We really focus on digitalizing our learning environment. And we created relatively broad and multidisciplinary bachelor programs, and then created, in following the three-tier structure of Bologna process, the following of more independent master programs. So this was a really huge development at our university. And we have done extensive developments in order to reach these aims. So we provide pedagogical training for all our staff members. We have digitalization projects, and we have digital tools for students and teachers. And we especially emphasize in our pedagogical education that how our teachers can teach with multiple digital tools, how they can modify their pedagogical practices in line with these tools and keep student learning at focus, and how they utilize the immediate evidence that they receive from digital tools and how they improve their own teaching. And we have several systems at our university and several sources that we utilize in providing evidence for our program directors and teachers when they develop their teaching and learning. So on the first level, on the course level, our teachers receive versatile pedagogical support in order to enhance their teaching to support student learning. Our degree programs and faculties receive information based on our surveys and feedback tools in order to develop the programs on program level. And then our deans and our rectorate follows that how this happens in different faculties in all degree programs on the level of university, whole University of Helsinki. So I started, so that learning focused and research based approach is a key at our university, supporting both domain specific knowledge and skills and generic knowledge and skills during the bachelor and master degrees. We have done extensive development of degree programs and curricula, and in line with those aims, developed our learning environments, digital tools, and pedagogical practices. And we also provide versatile support for students by providing them feedback and guiding them throughout their studies. Thank you.
Hello, thank you, Auli. And you are exactly on time, and I'm glad for that. So we have, let's say, 8 minutes for discussions. We have already here several questions raised by participants. One is for obviously Urban, where colleague Vranjes from Banja Luka University asked about problems of accreditation, but there is more technical, and I would say maybe you can answer very shortly on that. What can I say about your topic and organization of transdisciplinarity and interdisciplinarity? This is my question. We organize, for example, at the University of Zagreb, two military programs. One is military engineering and other is military management. 15 faculties out of 34 of the University of Zagreb participate in that program. And that was a huge problem, how to organize them on the higher level of interdisciplinarity and transdisciplinarity, because by your definition, we had at the bachelor's level merely multidisciplinarity. So what can you say, answer to Mr. Vranjes, and maybe comment my description of this study?
Yes, thank you. First, I would like to thank Auli. It was really interesting. Concreteness of how you do it would be quite interesting for me, I would say. But to answer this question, of course, it cannot be answered very quickly. There are on European level, on Bologna level, there are conferences organized how to unify legislations, how to do the accreditations of joint degrees, of universities collaborations more smoothly, because of course legislations are so different. This is quite a problem, and I don't want to go into it now. It is being solved. It is being on the radar of Bologna people. So I think at least Ljubljana University part of the university knows about it and does quite a good job in handling all these different things. But I would like to say first to what you said, Professor BORAS. I don't think that just multidisciplinary programs are bad or anything. They are like the core of everything. I didn't want to say, I just think that they are a little bit easier to manage within the existing structures. That's all what I wanted to say.
Thank you for that statement. Yes. Thank you for that statement.
No, please, I would not like to be misunderstood at all. This is none of this is bad or good. It's just some ways of collaborating need some other structures that what we have. That's all I wanted to say. But I think joining together many different pieces, the different disciplines, is quite a tricky job, even if they are just joined together, if you don't have an integration core, as you learned, I guess, Professor BORAS. Yes. So I think if there is a will, it can be done. So concerning accreditation, I think now it's, of course, a juggling job to do accreditation of very complex program. But I think if anything is a sort of a morale of our session, of this kind of talks, is that university should start think ahead and prepare the ground, so people that want to do something very complex have this ground already prepared and just go on it. It can be a complicated path to get interdisciplinary, but it would be so much easier if rules would be set in advance. That's my suggestion for the high representatives.
Yes, I just only for a few seconds, because Professor Vranjes from Banja Luka asked me that his direction, question was in direction when several universities want to accredit common.
Yeah, I think if Professor Vranjes, if you want, you can email me. I can share with you all the intricacies of how to write a consortium contract, which is the first thing between all the universities. And we were sort of template for what University of Ljubljana does now with this. And so it's a very important thing that at first you go through details. You start always these complex programs with a very good idea and a lot of optimism. But before you accredit it, it's really important to go through all the details, financing, how will diplomas will manage, all these little lawyer details have to be resolved before you start the program. And a consortium contract, which is done in the example of joint degrees, is a good thing to start with. After you, of course, you have an idea. But the rest, I would not go here, but I'm quite happy to respond to more detailed questions.
Thank you, Urban. I wouldn't like to make short time for our Auli extremely interesting and motivating presentation, because as I was a pioneer in these teams, and even skills which we need to pass to our students is the most important, and priorities in that. And she stated very, very clearly what is needed. What I can say, critical thinking is most important. And even I wrote a book with my doctorand with the title Critical Learning in Digital Networks. in New York, what it was published, but it is also a digital version of that. That is the most important thing. And for me, as a pioneer in using information technology in e-education and so on, also digital skills. And I would tell only one thing, which is almost always forgotten: how to write good things, good research papers in English, good English, but at least European English, but even in mother tongue. We have the problem of that. And this is also which I have experience we need to teach, because with structured thinking and learning and critical thinking, we need to know and to learn how to express yourself. So it's my question to you. I had also other questions for Urban. Maybe we shall go back later, but can you comment which is the most important things for you for students to learn and teachers how to pass this knowledge?
Yes, thank you, Damir. I agree completely with you that the critical thinking is the most important skill for current and future academic. And the challenge that we have experienced when we have bachelor programs and master programs taught by several teachers. So how to build the continuum from one course to another from the viewpoint of student learning, that we start with more simple skills and then increase our demands for their critical thinking, and also require them to develop in these skills continuously throughout the studies. And how we build the demands and how we put them to do the work, that it is not dependent only on some teachers, but so that they are accumulated throughout the degree. And for this, we have provided models and guidelines for our degree programs so that they take care of these, because it requires a lot of training and exercises for students to do in order to learn to think critically and to write and express what they think.
Thank you. We have some more questions, but I need to ask the Professor Papic, how time have we left, more or nothing?
As far as I know, we have exactly 1 more minute. So. Okay.
Then, sorry, Urban, I will give that to Auli because of she's a woman. So we have they have a question that during Auli, that during the talk you mentioned deep and meaningful learning and the academic working, let's say, has changed. So do you plan some special programs in education for these criteria? How do you control the outcomes? That is the question.
We have tried, thank you, really good question and challenging one.
Yeah.
We have tried to implement learning of these generic skills to all our programs instead of providing any external courses for learning these skills, because students need some content to think critically. So you can't think critically or you can't collaborate in general, but you really, and that is the reason why it has to happen in the context of your domain, or if it's a multidisciplinary program. So they need some subjects or they need some problems to think about and to solve and to collaborate instead of doing this in general.
Okay.
And that is the reason why they are implemented to all our programs.
Yes, thank you, Auli. So I will finish now, but I will let the question of succession rate and outcomes of cognitive science experiences to Urban later during maybe by email. So thank you, Urban. Thank you, Auli. Thank you all. And I thank you for opportunity to chair this session. And of course, I am invited to some very important meeting outside the university, so I don't know if I would would be possible to stay at the second session. So thank you, Luciano, and thank you, Igor, and thank you all others for asking me to join your extremely nice and very informative and I need to say motivating Rector seminar. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Damir.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rector BORAS. Thank you to the speakers, also Urban Kardesh and Auli TOOM for the excellent presentation. It was a very interesting session. Now we have a break of about 10 minutes, so we will resume at 11:10 with